Shalom, all praise to Yahweh, Shem Yahshai, Bashem Rakakadash. Double and see apostles and hours of great most and roll well and Shalom. To all the brothers doing the work, sincerity and truth. Yeah, this whole Brexit deal's now gone through completely. Now it's crossed over into January 1st, 2021. So, you got these isles, Britain is essentially, now they're just floating on their own, and you're gonna see the impacts of that are gonna compound over time, and it's yeah, and it's a hot mess, man. More or less, it's all that pride that people are running with, that was being put on display by like the MPs and the people as well. Talk about get our Britain back, all that shit. You're gonna see how it's all gonna amount to a nothing. It's gonna be a hot mess, like, because why? It's this place is done. It's done. One, because the prophecies of Yahweh Shem Yahshai are basically coming against this place first and foremost. And what Britain's like the mother of the beast is essentially part of that dragon, that power structure of Esau. But it's like, what does it say? If a kingdom be divided against itself, how then, how can if Satan be divided against himself, how can his kingdom stand? And that's what you're having with the Brexit. It's basically Esau being divided against himself. So it's to his own destruction, which is why we cheer it on, we applaud it. And we love to see it happen, man, because this is basically showing this place is on its way out, man. It's spiraling around the toilet bowl, and waiting to get for that flush, man, that nuclear flush. But this is on the Guardians. It's Brexit in crisis. Without fanfare, UK finally ends the EU era. This is Boris Johnson largely ignores Brexit in New Year message to focus on toll of Rona and the grimness of 2020. And yeah, it's everyone's thinking like, 2020, I'm so glad it's finally over. But bruv, I don't know what's making man think that 2021 is gonna be any better. It's like the floodgates have done been open, so it's a wrap. It's done, man. That old spirit from before ain't gonna return. That's what people are hoping for. So this is what 4 years, 27 weeks, and 2 days after a referendum that split the country almost down the middle. The UK left the EU's orbit on Thursday night in a departure that was notably low-key and marked by warnings of likely disruption to come. In a sometimes somber New Year message, Boris Johnson largely ignored Brexit on an outcome he arguably shaped more than any other politician, to focus instead on the toll of C-19 and what he called the growness of 2020. With the majority of England subject to tough restrictions and hospitals warn over calamitous winter Rona crisis in the weeks ahead, the chimes of Big Ben temporarily reconnected from ongoing restoration work sounded across net empty streets at 11 p.m. This was a pivotal moment for Brexit. While the UK formally departed the EU at the end of January 2020, a transition period meant almost all tangible changes were deferred until now. From Friday morning, individuals and businesses, both in the UK and beyond, face a dizzying new array of red tape, a good deal of it still to be confirmed, covering everything from travel, residency, work, and tourism to the supply of goods and services, yeah. So you've kind of had it over the last couple months. these things have been getting ironed out. Yeah, it's like um, depending on the kind of method in which a lot of people from like the EU, from like Spain, Italy, Portugal, France, all these kinds of places, depending on how they got over here, some of them are having, the circumstances have changed, that either not going to be able to work, they might have to go back, and these things are going to have an impact. And it's like there's bigger areas where you might just be thinking about at the local Tesco, or a fucking chippy down the corner, on the corner or whatever. But it's gonna be felt in like nursing homes. They mentioned the strawberries that were out. They said like the strawberry pickers was usually done by Eastern Europeans, and a lot of them weren't there. So it's gonna be a bunch of holes basically in the system, where it's gonna be like, okay, look, people have fucked off back to Europe, different parts of Europe, and because of that, there's just a gap there, and then that gap's gonna be felt, and that's how it's gonna, this place, like I said, with no fanfare, man. It's just gonna deflate. So this is what considerable government anxiety remain focused on the situation at the ports in Kent. No, the Channel ports. At the Channel ports in Kent, particularly after COVID-related delays early in December, saw thousands of lorries backed up at a disused airfield. One of 10 sites prepared for possible Brexit caused disruption. Yeah, and you had like images of that where it was just like rows and rows and rows. Where now it's like, it says the moment of Brexit passed without ceremony in Dover. The town had a ghost-like quality, Rona emptying it of New Year celebrations as it approached 11 p.m. with half a dozen trucks trying to make it over the line before the new trade barriers were erected, greeted by two police officers that were told the last ferry had departed at 9 p.m. for France. Those who had evidence for C-19 tests in the last 72 hours were allowed through to the small lorry park at the port, where they could sleep overnight before boarding. Before boarding 7:40 a.m. ferry, the first voyage from Dover under new Brexit trading rules. So yeah, it's changing how getting through the borders, getting different like deliveries, all that. And mainly the main one is food, which is where you had the former shortage was for like fresh veg, which there was a shortage for a few days whilst they were sorting it out, but then it worked out afterwards. But then it's like, yeah, these things within a few hours, a few days, it becomes a crisis. That's how swiftly the thing cannot go on. And now that there's all the extra red tape, it's very, very easy for a situation like that to occur, man. So it says officials are hopeful of a smooth start to the new era, but are braced for possible delays next week, with government estimates suggesting that more than half of smaller businesses have not yet prepared for the end of free movement of goods and services. Yeah, for real. It's gonna be, especially depending when you get certain suppliers from, it's either gonna start costing more, then they're just gonna be like, rah, why is all of a sudden there's like a 70% markup on what it was previously. And then they're just gonna have to be like, yo, they're gonna have to start changing completely how shit was paid for. It's mad. It's actually mad, because hella play. That's why you're gonna feel like the burn. A bunch of places are gonna have to shut down there, or their service is gonna be limited, or they have to change up how they provide their service, because all kinds of changes will come. And some people ain't really ready for it for shit, man. It's funny as hell. Um, so it says it all adds to a ministerial in tray already overflowing with the impacts of the Rona, not least the government's decision to defer the return to school of some pupils next week, with Labour accusing the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson of serial incompetence. Johnson used much of his New Year message to herald the end of a year in which the government was forced to tell people how to live their lives, how long to wash their hands, how many households could meet together. Nah. But yeah, it's fucking hell. But that's it's gonna be felt, the impacts of of basically that pride, which the people on the lower level in the UK anyway, I'm saying, is like these guys, they had pride thinking, there was something for them to gain in this situation, which shows they're simple as hell. But it's really like the pride of the elites kind of orchestrating these things and thinking that somehow they're not going to be held to the account. Like, the scriptures say, Satan be divided against himself. How should the kingdom stand? But then these guys are basically, formulating situations where you just kind of disrupting your own power system and think, that it's going to come out to their gain in the end, man. Let me read this. Isaiah 14:10, it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Yeah, so that's Esau. Basically, the other nations looking at him and just being like, yo, you become weak as we? And it's yeah, and that pump, all that pride has been brought down, and that's what what you're in the process of seeing. You've been seeing it for the last good couple of years, man. All that shine America had, the Western world, Esau's rulership. It's been highlighted time and again that it's losing its luster. It's on its way out, because that's why America throughout this year, just been looking at really. Yeah, so America, all that spirit of that puffed up spirit of just being like, yeah, you're the saviors of the world. That's all been basically done away with, and everyone's now seeing it as it is, man. Seeing the West as it is, as basically providing, a kind of smoke screen, man, where the lies, all the filth that's done under the covers is coming out, man. The truth of like Hollywood's coming out. Truth of how this warmongering that's just being done for natural resources, all these different things that Esau's done, which you go back 10, 15, 20 years, they might have been able to, even longer than that, really, they might have been able to get away with. But what, it's all getting exposed, man, and everyone's starting to come against him. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yeah, Bashim Shah, Bashim Rakakadash Bakta. Shalom.